Now, I've spent 20 years in healthcare as a nurse, and I love my job. It's a great job. I love the company that I work for. I think that we save lives daily. The community is definitely better because we're there. We have a son that's in active duty military serving in the U.S. Air Force. We love our country. We love the freedoms that the Declaration of Independence define, the Constitution establishes, and the Bill of Rights mandate. We know that it's not unprecedented for vaccinations to be mandated, such as the polio vaccine, but that took much longer to develop and had proper testing. We understand the rights of the people of America to establish laws, to create order and maintain stability, to protect human life. I'm in favor of those things. But the mandate of the COVID-19 vaccination is unprecedented for numerous reasons. The development of it has happened faster than any other vaccine has ever been developed before. It has had limited testing. It's not received FDA approval. And what I give testimony today is the possible adverse reactions that I have observed and the challenge for reporting and tracking pertaining to those adverse reactions. So I'm just going to start where it hit home first. I want to start with my parents. My father's a Methodist minister, and he has been for 50 years. And after his first dose of the COVID-19 vaccination, he ended up with a very severe case of shingles. Months. He was very miserable with these shingles. After my mother, who I want to add is perfectly healthy, she's not had any health problems at all. She's not on any blood thinners. After her first injection of the COVID-19 vaccination, she ended up, her arm swelled real bad, and she broke out in a rash.
Could you pull the mic closer?
Sure. She reported this to her doctor, and all he did was schedule her second COVID vaccination. So after her second COVID vaccination, my mother went unresponsive at the dinner table, falling to the floor, requiring my 80-year-old father to administer CPR to her while they waited for an ambulance to arrive. The medical team arrived and revived her. She was taken to a local hospital, and the lab work indicated that her hemoglobin and hematocrit were critically low. She received 2 units of packed red blood cells. She was diagnosed with a GI bleed. She's never had anything like this before and not on blood thinners. There's absolutely no reason for a healthy person to have a GI bleed. She was discharged the following day to be followed closely by a medical team. And they have followed her closely. She's had upper and lower GI. She's had bi-weekly lab drawn, but we have watched over the last 2 months her hemoglobin and hematocrit continue to drop. She's still bleeding somewhere, and they don't know where. She ended up having to have 2 more units of packed red blood cells last week for this critically low, we call it H&H. Let's see here. She's going to follow up with a hematologist and a GI doctor this month. But I talked to her doctor about the possibility of this being an adverse reaction to the vaccine, and he would not even hear me out. He dismissed it immediately. And I thought that was very interesting that he wouldn't even consider. I was just asking him to consider the possibility. Is anyone reporting this? Who do we report it to? If this could be a possible adverse reaction to the vaccine. And I received a text this morning from a friend of mine who's also a nurse and colleague, and she had started talking about all the adverse reactions that are unreported from PEs, fast irregular heart rates, on young, healthy adults. I've also seen other GI bleeds who have received the vaccine. And I'm not saying that it is definitely an adverse reaction from the vaccine, but who do we report it to? Why are we not reporting? It just seems like there is something off with the reporting and the study of the adverse reactions of these vaccines. We know that there's some reporting, but how many people in hospitals are even considering that these symptoms could be possible adverse reactions to the vaccine? In a rush, our best efforts to reduce the impact of COVID-19 through a vaccine campaign, I believe, is evidence that we could put more people at risk than we actually save. If accurate information was made available pertaining to diagnosis, the host, the vaccination, all of us would have enough information to make an educated decision about our own personal health. But we are overran with conflicting information found from news sources that seem to change every other day. Our news sources sound more like propaganda to me than anything else. So shouldn't we let the people be able to make informed decisions with what is best for their own family regarding risk versus benefits? I think most people would agree that if we had accurate information, that we could make good decisions about our own health. I believe that I work at one of the top healthcare facilities in the nation. I work with some of the most talented surgeons, nurses, respiratory therapists, and we provide excellent care to our patients. I worked through the pandemic of 2020. I was in contact with patients that had COVID. I saw firsthand the devastating impact that this disease had, and I was proud of the response of the metro hospitals here in Little Rock that they had. I saw many nurses, many friends, many colleagues that worked tirelessly to take the very best care, do the very best care, the very best they could in these very difficult situations. We exposed our families to this risk. I undressed nightly in the garage. Before I even walked into the house, I had to take my clothes off in the garage, and I had to tell my 5-year-old son that he couldn't hug me until I had a shower because I had germs. So we feel very passionate in our family about caring for the mental, the physical, and the spiritual health of all people. And in light of the testimony I give you, I am intellectually incapable of receiving a vaccination based on the observed potential risk and limited tracking of those risks because of a rush to force a vaccination mandate. I've worked at 4 local hospitals and a nursing home, all within this area during my career, and none of them tried to mandate a flu vaccination. Not one of them. In my mind, that we have to serve and put their life at risk for a period of time we're not respecting the intellect and the religious freedom and the privacy regarding vaccination status. So I had to come today. First of all, my father taught me to always stand up for what is right, even if you stand alone. But also I had the responsibility to our church to be a voice for them of righteousness. I have a responsibility to humanity to report my observations. And I had a responsibility to all of you, our elected officials, to share my experiences and knowledge and to help you with one of the most critical decisions you will be faced with in your lifetime. We will all stand before God with the choices that we make. My husband and I have been in the workforce since we were 15 and 16 years old. And we've dedicated our lives to making our community safer for our children and your children. And it's people like us that a forced mandate will put out of work. And has history not taught us anything? In 2020, all medical personnel were being regarded as frontline heroes. In 2021, some of us are going to go out in shame. 20-year veterans. My own supervisor she has resigned, and she is irreplaceable. There is no one that can eyeball a patient like her and be able to just pinpoint little things that a new nurse would miss out on. So have we so quickly forgotten the moral and degrading ethical implications that these same behaviors had on our Vietnam veterans? They served their country and mankind well and came home to be rejected by their own people. I would hope that we've learned from our mistakes in the past. Thank you for your time.